Okay, if you look over on the left-hand side of your chart, you'll see the money lines. The money lines will rise up from the head and spine line, travel up towards the mercury finger, the pinky finger. These lines will reflect how many income streams you'll experience at any given time. The timeline starts at around age 20 at the head and spine line, and when it transverses that heart line, that's about age 45. And the area between the top of the heart line and the bottom of the little ring around the little finger is the late 40s and up into your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s and beyond. There's a timeline that runs up through that. Now these are any income streams from jobs you have or spouse's jobs, investments, inheritance, or any money that comes into your household. And you've got to count student loans, anything that increases your income into your household. Later on we'll show you how to correlate these lines with the achievement lines and the fate line. So it looks like from age 20 to 37 there's one line, one income stream. From 37 to 47 there's two lines. Then from 47 to 60 you've got three lines. That's excellent, three income streams. Then from 60 on up into your 80s, there's two lines. Alright, moving on to your relationship and marriage lines. That area just above the flirt lines, just below the bottom ring of that mercury or that little finger, are your relationships and your marriages. These horizontal lines sit between the top of the heart line and the bottom of the ring on that little finger. There's a timeline there, and you divide these up into three sections. Now coming up from the bottom, that first section is your 20s and 30s, middle section is your 40s and 50s, and that third section is 60 and above. You'll read those lines beginning from the back of the hand, which is the start of the relationship or the marriage, towards the palm, which is later on. The lighter lines will be relationship lines, and the darker ones, the more prominent lines, will stand out and have a great density and color to them, reflect your marriages. Now as we take a look at those horizontal lines on the edge of your right hand, and we can see those little relationship lines, and then you've got a very strong marriage line. That's probably the marriage you're in now, and then we don't see anything past that. It's a very strong line. Goes along nice and deep. It doesn't have any breaks or islands in the line, so it looks like a good marriage. Now the children lines come down vertically from the bottom of that ring around the mercury finger, and you count them from the inside of your palm to the outer edge. And these can be biological children, stepchildren, adopted, godchildren, or nieces and nephews. Any child that you build a strong bond with. Now as we take a look at those vertical lines that come down right off that bottom ring around that mercury finger, that pinky finger, and you can see three pretty robust lines there. You can even see that little miscarriage line also. Then you've got a gap and you've got a bunch of lines behind that. Those are grandchildren lines. We don't usually count those in your hand. We've never got a very accurate read on the grandchildren lines. Those are better counted in your children's hands. But three very robust lines there. Alright, let's move on to your achievement lines. Now these achievement lines are small lines that rise up off the top of the lifeline, and they travel up towards that Saturn finger. The small lines represent your achievements, your successes, all of your wins in life, like graduating high school or graduating college also. Marriages, having children, getting a new job, a promotion, coming into money, any type of thing, like winning awards, anything that's a win in life. Now these rise off the top of the lifeline until you're around age 40, and then right there at the bottom, it kind of moves to the inside of that lifeline where they rise up. Let's look at what ages your achievements are. That will be on the top of your chart up there towards the left-hand side of your chart, and you have achievements at these ages. Ages 15, 21, 23, 25, 28, 31, a couple of really good ones at age 33 and 37, we have them circled there. Then at 39, 41, 47 is another really good one. Then 52, 57, 60 is another great achievement there. Then 62, 66 another really good one. Then 69, 71, 74, 77, and age 80. Now something you must understand about these lines or any other lines that we quote an age on, and these are just approximations, you want to add or subtract a year or two from that age. For example, let's say we indicate like age 50. That could be age 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. We don't always hit the age right exact, but we come pretty close most of the time. Alright, let's move on to your guardian angels. Now who your guardian angels are will show in your left hand, and your left hand only. If if you've had a visit or some type of intervention or even an interaction with them, that will show in your right hand. So let's start with who your guardian angels are. Now, as we look in this left hand, who your guardian angels are represented by a line that runs parallel to the lifeline. If you look on your hand chart, you can see where the lifeline is. It starts up there between your index and your thumb and travels down your thumb or down around your wrist. And there's a timeline on that lifeline that starts at your earliest age and progresses as you grow older. Age 10 is right at the very edge of your palm, right there between your thumb and Jupiter finger. And as that travels down, you draw an imaginary line straight down from the inside of your index or that Jupiter finger, kind of that area right there between your index and your middle Saturn finger. That is about age 20. As you travel down the line to where that lifeline turns right at the kind of the bottom base of that thumb, and it goes around the wrist, that's right around age 40. And as it gets down around the edge of your palm, the outside edge around the wrist, that's about age 56. And then it goes backwards on around the back of the hand, and that's your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. Now, where that guardian angel line touches on your lifeline is the age that you were when a loved one passed away. There will be a third small line that intersects that guardian angel line, and this shows who your guardian angel is. This is kind of showing where they passed away. And this can be grandpas, grandmas, parents, aunties, uncles, siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews, children, or close friends, anyone that you had a strong bond with. Now, who your guardian angels are show at these ages. Ages 14, 19, 21, and 26. Now, if you've had a visit or any kind of intervention from your guardian angels, it'll show in your right hand. These are the same lines as in the left, but they run parallel to the lifeline, and they travel up and eventually touch on the lifeline. The small intersecting lines are not present in the right hand because that line reflects the death of a loved one. Now, these show a visit or some kind of intervention or interaction, such as if, like maybe you received a warning that caused you to avoid an accident or something tragic, or you're in a bad accident and survived, or if your guardian angel just come to check in on you and give you a message in a dream or something like that. And I really get a kick out of some of the dozens of stories that clients have told about interactions they've had with their guardian angels. And I hope you don't mind, I've got to tell you about this story. And it's one that really resonates in my mind, is when Kat was reading the hand of a little older gentleman. He was probably in, probably his 50s, and she discovered a prominent guardian angel line that showed in his hand right around age 40. And she asked him what happened here. Well, this poor guy got really emotional, and without hesitation, he starts to describe in detail how he was sitting at home alone one evening, and he's getting a little concerned about where his 16-year-old daughter was, who had gone out to a high school football game, and she was late getting home, and he was getting a little concerned. And he tells about how he was sitting in his favorite chair in the living room, and he glanced at a portrait of his deceased wife that was sitting up on the mantel, and he heard her voice clear as day. But this was more in his head than kind of audible. And it states how he needed to go out and find his daughter. So he called his sister and they ran all over town looking for his daughter. They were eventually guided to this little mom and pop restaurant where they got in there, and he saw his daughter standing out back behind the restaurant. There were a bunch of guys on bikes and they were riding around her and harassing her. So he went to his car and grabbed a baseball bat and he went out and chased them off. Well, it turns out that his daughter had gone to get some shakes with some of her friends after the game, and she somehow got a wrong turn and ended up out back of the restaurant. So as this guy was getting his hand read, he was telling Kat this story, and his daughter was sitting right next to him, and she's nodding her head in agreement, and she's getting really kind of emotional. Kat then says to her, "Show me your right hand." And sure enough, his daughter had the same very prominent guardian angel line right there at age 16. So the lines matched up. So isn't that interesting? And we're actually going to publish a book in the near future with all those amazing stories in there. Okay, now, any visits from your guardian angels or any kind of divine intervention or celestial protection shows at these ages. Ages 14, 19, 21, 24, 34, and 36. Okay, on to the headline. The headline is the horizontal line that spans across the middle of your palm. It sits just below that heart line, and if you look on your chart there, it starts in between the thumb and index finger, and it ends towards the edge of the palm just underneath that Mercury finger. Now, this line represents your intelligence, or better yet, how well you use your mental energy. The straighter across the palm that line goes, the sharper you are. If it dips down just a little bit at the end, or even a lot into that luna area, that little fat pad just that runs vertical up to that little finger from your wrist on the outside of your palm, it can indicate a little bit of depression or brain fog. And this is when your mind just doesn't quite work at its peak performance. And this can be related to other aspects, other markings that are around the head and spine line, and we'll talk about those in a minute. Now, as we take a look at that headline actually goes pretty straight across the palm of the hand. You got a little bit of fussiness in there. You got one little bit of a kind of a break there, but we'll look in that spine line in just a minute and see what's going on that way. But for the most part, a fairly intelligent headline. It means you use your mental energy well. Now when you get out on the end of that, it dips down just a little bit into that mount of the moon, or into that luna area. That's that little fat pad there on the edge of your hand underneath that pinky finger. That can indicate depression, anxiety. That kind of fogs your thinking in a little bit, makes it troublesome when you're trying to concentrate. But for the most part, fairly smart headline. Okay, we're going to shoot over here to the heart line. The heart line is the horizontal line at the top of the palm. It's just below the fingers and tells us about your emotional state and the physical health of your heart. And you have a straight heart line, which means you're tough emotionally. You hold your cards kind of close to your chest. You don't put up with other people's games and shenanigans. You say what you mean and mean what you say. Now, your heart line also reflects the health of your heart. You want a nice, clean, consistent line without breaks or little islands on it. If you have these markings, that can indicate a little bit of stress on that heart. Now, as we take a look at that heart line, your heart line actually goes along pretty good. You don't see any big breaks or islands in it. You do have a couple of what we call triangles underneath there, and that would indicate a little bit of heart stress. But we'll look in that spine line here in a minute and see if that's not a contributing factor. But for the most part, your heart line actually looks pretty good, pretty healthy. Now, I'll tell you how to double check that line if there's anything serious. You want to look at the edge of your fingernails. And if you have any kind of a steep roundness to them, or what we call clubbing, especially if they grow over the end of the fingertip, then you want to look at the nail beds. And there should be a nice pink color underneath that nail bed. You don't want any kind of blue or bluish tinge. Because if you do have kind of a bluish tinge to that, it means you're not getting the blood flow or the oxygen to the extremities. It means that your heart's actually working a lot harder than it should be. And if you have any of these indicators, you probably want to get a hold of your doctor and have them take a look at your heart. Alright, moving on to the sixth sense. The sixth sense is your intuition. It shows up as a nice little mound just under that index or that Jupiter finger on the right hand, and you want to see that nice little fat pad there. It's called the Mount of Jupiter. Now, as we take a look at the Mount of Jupiter on your hand, just under your index finger, and your Mount of Jupiter is actually pretty robust. It means that you have a good intuition, a good sixth sense. In fact, you've got a couple of little X's right down there at the bottom of that Mount of Jupiter. Means you actually have some psychic abilities. It means you kind of see things before they happen. Let me tell you how to use or develop that intuition. Whenever you have a problem that seems difficult to solve, find a nice quiet room in the house, one without distractions, and sit down, turn off the lights, relax and quiet your mind. And when you're nice and calm, ask out loud for a solution to your problem. Then put it down and out of your mind and walk away for about probably 30 minutes and let your intuition and your subconscious work on that answer. And when you come back to it, you should have an answer. Listen to the small promptings, the still small voice in the back of your mind, and you should receive an answer fairly quickly. And this actually works really well at night. If you do this just before you go to sleep and let that subconscious mind kind of work on that overnight, you'll find that when you wake, you have a good answer to your problem. Okay, now the spine line, which is also called the headline, reveals the health of your spine. And it'll show if you have problems with vertebrae or discs in your back. It will show if they are subluxated. And what this means is they're turned out of place or they could be damaged. Or you could have a condition such as scoliosis or a twisting of the spine. It starts right there between the thumb and index finger, or the Jupiter finger, and travels across the palm just under the Mercury finger. Now pull up your spine chart. It's called the Chart of Effects of Spinal Misalignment, and that section underneath the index finger, if you're on your spine line underneath the Jupiter finger, that represents your cervical spine, kind of that neck area, that 1C to 7C, and it goes down to what's called the Dowager's Hump. This is the hump that you see in older folks when they're walking around and they're kind of bent over there at the neck, just under the bottom of the neck and the top of the back. That's where your cervical spine is. Then the area just underneath that Saturn or that middle finger is your thoracic spine. This is your 1T down to your 12T. That's the back that goes all the way down to your waist. Then there's that area underneath the sun finger or the ring finger, and that's your lumbar area. This is 1L to 5L. This is kind of your waist and your hips. Then of course you go down to your sacrum and your coccyx to the tailbone, which is underneath that little or that Mercury finger. Let me tell you a little bit about Kat has a master's degree in health education, and when she was going to college, she was developing her craft in hand analysis, and she came across a book from a longtime doctor, Dr. Eugene Scheinman, and he talked about how your spinal health absolutely shows in your hands, and working with Kat over the years, it's proven to be very real and accurate. Now, I always get a little chuckle when I hear back on some of the past clients that have taken their charts to their chiropractor or their physical therapist and having an evaluation, and the medical care provider was amazed how spot on the charts were. Okay, let's look at your chart. If you look over there on the left-hand side of your chart, you'll see an image of a spine, and you can see where Kat circled some of the vertebrae. And if you look in the very top part of that spine, you'll see that 1C down through the 5C. That's kind of the top down almost to the bottom of your neck. Looks like you've got some issues there with the vertebrae, whether they're out of alignment. Let's see, you didn't say anything in your information if you had damage there or not, but they're definitely turned out of place. And then that 1T, 2T area also, looks like there's a little issue with that. That's right at kind of the top of your shoulders. Then the 10T, 11T, 1L, 2L, those are your lumbar area. And then the 3L and 4L also. And if you look over to the right, you'll see the areas. That kind of shows the parts of the body that are affected when those are turned out of place or misaligned, or even when they have damage to them also. And of course the effects all the way over to the right indicate what kind of symptoms happen when those are turned out of place. Now, I know we talked a little bit about depression in that headline. Well, when that 1C is turned out of place, that can really be a contributing factor for depression. And then you can look down there on that 2T also. When we looked in the heart line, where we'd seen a little bit of heart stress, it's probably emanating from that 2T being out of place. And that can contribute to anxiety also. So you can kind of look up and down that chart there and see what symptoms are in that effects line and see how those apply to you. And I'll tell you when we see this, what we usually suggest is to get into a good chiropractor or even a good physical therapist and see if they can't get you realigned in that spinal column, and especially where you're at that 1C, 2C. You want to find somebody that knows craniosacral work, and they'll go into the roof of your mouth and they'll kind of manipulate those top plates, because you have a lot of nerve endings that end there, and it helps them get into that 1C, 2C and get that adjusted a little bit better. We find a lot of times that when people get those realigned, that they just have a lot more energy, a lot more ambition, and they just feel a lot better during the day. So that's something to consider. And I've seen many of Kat's clients and people she's done readings for, they'll take these charts down and show it to their doctors, and it's kind of a funny story how people will come back and their doctors are just amazed how accurate these spine charts are. Now, you also have a health line that correlates with the head and spine line, and this line represents your general health. It starts at the bottom kind of center of their palm, and it rises up towards that mercury or that little finger, and it stops at the head and spine line. And it should be a nice straight line without breaks or islands. This shows the health of your gut, like your stomach, your intestines, gallbladder, and the internal organs, and really more specifically your digestive system. If that line looks healthy, your general health is usually pretty good. Now, as we take a look at that health line, your health line actually goes pretty straight up there towards that mercury finger, but you can see where it kind of gets a little bit jittery there, kind of breaks and has a double line. That indicates a little bit of stress on those internal organs, on that digestive system. But I think that once you get in there and get that spine straightened out, get everything aligned and working good there, we find a lot of times that these lines clean up really good. Okay, we're going to move on to your fate line. The fate line, this is in your right hand only, reflects changes in your lifestyle or career, and they're really actually kind of interconnected. There's a timeline that starts at the bottom of the palm. It's right there right around the wrist, which is your younger years, and it travels up towards the middle Saturn finger for your later years. Now, whenever there's a break in that line, it will show a change in your lifestyle or career, and if you have more than one line, that depicts additional responsibilities like another job or taking care of someone, or something like an intense hobby, or maybe even a cause that you're a part of. Now, this fate line will also show how long you'll live in your present state of health, and this is barring any foreseen accidents or disease. Now, that fate line starts at the base of the palm and travels up, and if it starts right in the center, you're kind of a private person. If it starts on the outside, you're a social person. And your fate line starts to the outside of your palm. It means you're a social person. You like to get out there and be around people, be around friends and family, meet new people, and get out and socialize. You're kind of an extrovert. Now, if you look down in the bottom right-hand corner of your chart, you'll see the fate line, and this is changes in your career lifestyle. So from age 20 to 33, it looks like you've got one line. That's one responsibility or one job, with changes there at age 28, 31, and 33. Then from 33 to 37, there's two lines. Now, like we talked about before, this could be two jobs, or a job and a responsibility of maybe taking care of someone, or a job and maybe some kind of a cause you're working on, or a really intense hobby. Then you've got changes there at age 35 and 37. Then from 37 to 47, there's three lines. It looks like you've got changes there at age 41 and 45. Then from 47 to 60, there's two lines, with changes there at age 52 and 60. Then from 60 on up into your 80s, there's one line. Then that fate line goes up there to about age 88. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about how to put the money lines, achievement lines, and the fate line together to just show how they kind of correspond with each other and verify each other. And we're going to kind of backtrack here. Let's see, it looks like you're 45. We're going to go back here to age 28. Looks like you had an achievement there, and that kind of changed your lifestyle or your career. If you look down there on that fate line. And the same with age 31, 33, and 37. You've got achievements there, and you can see where you have the change there down on that fate line. And at age 37, also shows a increase in income streams. When you look down there on the money lines. And age 41, you've got an achievement there, and that kind of changed your lifestyle or career. Age 47, you got a big achievement there. Doesn't look like it changes your lifestyle or career that much, but you've got another increase in income streams. And you've got an achievement at 52, and that kind of changes your lifestyle or career. The same with age 60. Looks like you've got an achievement there, and that changes your lifestyle or career, and then your income streams kind of come down a little bit. Right there, that couldn't possibly be a retirement age. And then you've still got a bunch of achievements past that. So that's how we put the lines together to see the big picture.